Mitch from Northgold.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Lars. And thank you, Peter and Ron, for your excellent presentations. It's nice to have a good mining contingent at today's event. Northgold is a gold exploration story in central Finland. I've been the CEO for just over a year after joining July of last year. Before that, I had spent 13 years in the metals and mining sector, with 3 years at a top independent investment bank in Toronto as a research analyst. Before that, I was an engineer in industry for 10 years. What first attracted me to this story is and enticed me to leave my somewhat comfortable job in Toronto and move over here to Sweden were two main attributes. Number one, the quality and fairly advanced stage of Northgold's assets. And number two, the strong ownership backing by two solid founding shareholder groups. And these reasons, I think, should translate for good reasons for investors to get into the stock. I'll be making some forward-looking statements. Encourage you to read the disclaimer when you can. Presentation's also available on our website. The contents of the presentation today. Now this summary slide highlights Northgold's solid starting resource base of 725,000 ounces gold equivalent at a weighted average grade of 1.11 grams per ton gold, or 0.91 grams per ton gold excluding the copper that's associated with the gold in this region of focus, which is central Finland's Middle Osterbothnia gold belt, which is circled in red on the map here. We like this belt because it's rather underexplored relative to the northern part of Finland, where large companies such as Agnico Eagle and Rupert Resources have made major discoveries in the past. And we think similar potential should exist in Middle Osterbothnia, where only the surface has been scratched comparatively. Our mineral resources are held across two project areas, which include our flagship Kopsa and our earlier stage Kamala Trend project, 50 kilometers to the north, both of which are being drilled currently as part of our ongoing 5,000 meter program. We're currently wrapping up at Kopsa in the coming weeks and then moving the rig over to Kamala Trend to test some earlier stage targets. Some key investment highlights are listed here. Finland's consistently ranked a top mining jurisdiction according to the Fraser Institute survey. Most recent 2021 rankings are shown in the chart. The rankings take into account a combination of attributes including geology, policy perception, and other factors such as labor, force, and infrastructure. Finland's also quite underexplored relative to other top mining jurisdictions such as Canada and Australia. Given Finland didn't open its doors to foreign investment until 1996. And this foreign investment didn't really take off until the last decade or so, as highlighted on this slide, with the key investments made by Kinross, Centerra, and Agnico Eagle. And as a gold company, Northgold offers exposure to the gold price, which could be poised to rise on the back of high inflation and geopolitical pressures currently. Together, our projects make up a dominant land position in Middle Osterbothnia, where the gold mineralization tends to be near surface, often outcropping or exposed, and which should bode well for low-cost resource growth and new discoveries from ongoing and future systematic exploration. And as I mentioned earlier, companies backed by our two solid founding shareholder groups. The largest shareholder is Magnus Minerals, which is a Finnish geological consultant and project generator, which has multiple existing joint ventures in Finland, including with major companies such as Boliden, First Quantum, and Rio Tinto. And the second is Starboard Global Limited, an international private equity mining group that's been involved with numerous successful listings, including Euro Battery Minerals AB, which is also listed in Sweden and also holds a project in Finland. Next, I'll talk briefly about gold as a commodity, as an asset class. The gold price has fallen in recent months from more than $1,900 back in April to the $1,700–$1,800 per ounce range, where it has traded more recently, which has been surprising to some, given the high inflation and the geopolitical pressures that persist. Maybe the recently rising interest rates and strong U.S. dollar performance has helped stifle or defer some demand for gold recently. In any event, we're happy to advance Northgold's projects at this current pricing, $1,800 per ounce, which is still relatively high historically. And we think the gold price is more likely to rise than fall as inflation and geopolitical pressures and other economic market factors persist. There has been buzz in the past around Bitcoin as an alternative asset class to gold, but you're hearing less about this recently as the Bitcoin price has fallen off. We point out the combined value of Bitcoin and Ethereum together is in circulation in the world is less than 1 trillion, whereas the value of the gold produced through history is over 10 trillion. We'll take a deeper dive into the Northgold story and the assets now. This slide shows a big picture setting of the Middle Ostrobothnia gold belt. A significant investment of the Swedish side of the Gulf has resulted in numerous precious metals discoveries there along Sweden's VMS and gold line trends. And we believe this prospectivity should extend over to the Finnish side, which has received a fraction of the exploration investment. But it's already yielded some early discoveries, as shown by the yellow dots on the map, including Northgold's largest deposits, Kopsa and Angisneva. And here we take a closer look at the Middle Ostrobothnia belt where we are focused. Gold occurs throughout this emerging district, and Northgold holds 2 of the more significant projects that cover some of the more prospective areas. To the south, we have our flagship Kopsa, 500,000 gold ounce deposit plus some copper credits. And to the 50 kilometers north is our Kemalatran project, which hosts Angisneva, 147,000 ounces of gold, in addition to some dozen other drilled and undrilled earlier stage targets. A few other projects of interest that I'd like to point out that are in our neck of the woods are the Laiva gold mine to the north. It had been held by Otso Gold. It hosts 800,000 ounces, and it has a mill there with a nameplate capacity of 2 million tons per annum. This mine has recently gone offline. It was a struggling project, and it's currently in receivership, actually. So we continue to watch that story. Rupert Resources, over here to the west, hosts Hersey Kangas project, which hosts 89,000 ounces. That's a non-core project for Rupert. They're, of course, focused up in the northern part of Finland on their recent 4 million ounce Ikkari discovery. And then to the southeast of Kopsa, we have the Piasalmi mine, which is held by First Quantum Minerals. It hosts a little bit of remaining resources, but it's currently approaching depletion, and that mine is set to close very soon. So, there's no formal discussions or anything, but all of these are, possible, M&A targets for Northgold in the coming years. We'll take a close look at our flagship Kopsa with a 500,000 ounce gold deposit, some of which is exposed at surface with several outcropping locations where gold is essentially sticking out of the ground. Deposit remains open for growth, both laterally and at depth, and along separate parallel structures to the north and to the south of the deposit, based on encouraging geophysics and base of till sampling. Importantly, this project has conditionally approved mining permit that's based on an outdated 2013 preliminary economic assessment, which contemplated off-site processing, also known as toll milling. The PEA saw positive economics back then at a gold price of $11.60 per ounce gold and $2.74 per pound from an initial capex of $50 million US. Today, gold and copper trade above $1,700 per ounce and $3.50 per pound, which could suggest improved economics. We now We're now most of the way through an ongoing 4,000 to 4,500 diamond drill program at COPSA aimed at growing resources. And in the coming years, we would aspire to optimize the past conditionally permitted project and potentially expedite development and production should we find a suitable off-site processing arrangement and once we complete the necessary technical and permitting studies. And this slide looks at our other project, earlier stage Kamala Trend project, which covers 15 kilometers along a prospective trend and which contains numerous gold resources and prospects that are associated with a northwest striking regional fault system. This project hosts 7 granted permits, 3 of which are drill ready and will receive 500 to 1,000 meters of diamond drilling in this year's ongoing program. And that should conclude before the end of this quarter. And 4 of those granted exploration permits are still undergoing public correspondence, and we hope to drill those in the future. Another 2 additional exploration permits are still under application, and we hold one large reservation to the north where we have yet to apply for an application. Kamala Trend's most largest deposit and advanced deposit is Angisneva. It contains 3.85 million tons, grading 1.19 grams per ton gold for 147,000 ounces of gold based on a 2010 estimate, which is entirely in the indicated category. Much of this deposit is near surface, as shown in this block model on the right. Drilling that fed into this resource includes some attractive intercepts, as listed on the left. And most of the intercepts have been shallow and broad and moderately graded. There were some signs of some encouraging higher grade, more discrete intercepts at depth where very little drilling has been done, including the 5.26 grams per ton over 15.1 meters from 273 meters, which shows potential for long life, high grade underground mining after the shallower, more open pittable material would be mined out. But our initial drilling at Kamala Trend this year will be shallow and focused on the earlier stage pre-resource prospects in the southern parts of the property, which have big potential upside. And more on Kamala Trend project. The earlier stage prospects here, as mentioned, they all follow the same northwest striking fault structure. So, while only Kamala Trend or only Angisneva has been drilled to a resource, any of the other prospects to the south could grow into, that size or bigger deposit. And of the dozen or so prospects, many were drilled historically with multiple intercepts over 1 gram per ton that were never followed up on. A few of the prospects are undrilled and could result in brand new discoveries based on geophysics and geochemistry. As mentioned, this year we'll be drilling at the southern end of the property, beginning at the Pertineva prospect, which is undrilled but looks attractive based on IP-induced polarization geophysical surveys that we recently completed, and based on historic grab samples from outcrops that graded up to 12 grams per ton gold. Here we outline our near-term, medium-term, and longer-term objectives. In the near term, over the next 15 months or so, we would intend to grow our flagship COPSA resource and explore other prospects in Kamala Trend with the goal of increasing gold equivalent resources to 1 million ounces from the current 725,000 ounces. If and when we hit that goal, we aim to pivot to our medium-term objective of optimizing the conditionally permitted COPSA project, with the goal of advancing it back to a development stage through a possible toll milling arrangement with a local processing facility, while also continuing to grow resources and make new discoveries. And ultimately, provided we meet these near-term and medium-term goals, we would aim to advance COPSA to production, which could fund significant further exploration and grow gold production across the belt in the longer term, potentially from multiple satellites. This reiterates our current company mineral resources of 725,000 ounces gold equivalent, but broken down by project. As mentioned, the COPSA holds the bulk, with the Kamala Trend holding a minority share. Just to give you an idea, at today's gold price of $1,750, this gold would have an in situ value of 1.3 billion US dollars. But of course, the gold is still in the ground, so Northgold doesn't trade anywhere near the gold price of $1,750 per ounce because there are costs and risks associated with getting that gold out of the ground. But this chart shows our enterprise value per ounce. We trade at 23 euros per ounce. And the chart summary, this market multiple of enterprise value per ounce is plotted here for a range of listed gold exploration and development companies. And as mentioned, we trade at 23 euros per ounce gold, which compares to our Gold Explorer peer group average of 69 euros per ounce, and developer average only slightly higher currently at 71 euros per ounce. We currently trade at a share price of 20 krones per share around, which together with our 701,900 ounces of compliant resources, we exclude the historic non-compliant resources from this exercise. That results in the 23 euros per ounce, which puts us in the lower end of the spectrum, suggesting potential upside as our inventory of resources are advanced and as we grow our resources. I'll touch briefly on our ongoing, the plans for our ongoing exploration and some of the initial results that we have received. So initial core drilling and the bulk of the 2022 drilling will be focused at Kapsa. We're looking at drilling immediately in and around the existing deposit and around its peripheries. We're targeting infilling of some of the higher grade internal zones, as well as continuations of some of these zones around its peripheries, with the goal of growing resources and getting the company closer to our 2023 exploration target of 1 million ounce. The drill targets are derived from our team's 3D geologic model that incorporates significant historic drill hole data and recently expanded suite of surface and downhole geophysical data. Drilling at Kamala Trend will begin, as mentioned, at our Pertineva prospect in the south, and it's undrilled and looks attractive based on a recent IP survey we've completed and on the historic grab samples grading up to 12 grams per ton. So far, as of August 20th, we've drilled 20 holes for over 3,500 meters at Kapsa as part of the ongoing program. And the hole locations are shown by the yellow dots on this map. Resource growth is expected, as I mentioned, to come from both infilling or expanding the internal higher grade zones in the core of the deposit, and from making extensions or continuations of various zones in the peripheries. Assays are pending for the overwhelming majority of these holes, but we have received and reported gold assays for the first 3 holes, which are along these 3 cross-section lines. One hole confirmed a historically drilled broad interval of high-grade gold in the central main gold and copper mineralized zone, and the other 2 holes helped expand the main zone near its eastern extents, which are shown by cross-section lines 2 and 3. So our very first hole in the core of the deposit hit the best gold intercept to date at this project, which was 3.9 grams per ton over 98.7 meters from 6.1 meters depth along the hole, or 4.2 meters vertically. This included several higher grade subintervals as shown on the cross section on the slide. Copper assays are still pending and can only sweeten these results. The purpose of this hole was largely for our team to verify the geologic structures and the assays documented historically. But this 3.9 grams per ton over 98.7 turned out to be 18% higher grade, 13% thicker, and beginning at half the depth of the nearby historic intercept, which was 3.31 grams per ton over 87 87 meters from 12.9 meters depth along hole. So this hole should actually end up adding to resources in the next update. And just this week, we released assays for our third hole, which is shown here, hole number 3. And with this encountered more shallow gold mineralization, which appears to more than double the thickness of this main mineralized zone near its eastern extents here, where the past drilling had been more scarce than in the central parts. And copper assays are still pending here also. And I'll introduce the team briefly. So our board of directors include appointed members from our two founding shareholder groups, including Henrik Lofberg, appointed by Magnus Minerals, where he also serves as the operations manager, and Roberto Garcia Martinez, appointed by Starboard Global, who is also the CEO of Sweden-listed base metals exploration development company Euro Battery Minerals AB. With the 2 remaining board seats held by our senior geologist Timo Mäki, who has decades of experience working in Middle Ostrobothnia and who's credited with a major discovery at the Piasami mine. And our chairman is Otto Persson, who's a well-connected Swedish entrepreneur who's founder and past CEO of Train Alliance, which also trades on the NASDAQ First North Exchange. Our management team continues to be lean, but we are growing since the IPO in March. So there's myself as CEO, and Matthias Moden is our CFO under a consulting arrangement. We have Finland investor relations support through Petri Nosianen, based in Helsinki, and exploration management support from structural geologist Simo Pipo, who operates our 3D model in Leapfrog and plans and oversees exploration with the guidance and support of our expert geologist board member Timo and our technical advisory board of 3. And lastly, on the capital structure, as a newly listed company, listed on March 24th, we have an encouragingly tight capital structure with only 10.5 million shares out. Roughly 1/3 are currently free trading, based on a share lockup agreement that required the pre-IPO shareholders to lock up their shares for a period of 12 months from the first day of trading. That is until March 24th of next year. The company founding shareholders, I mentioned Magnus Minerals and Starboard Global, together with their related parties, own 29 and 25% of the company. Board and management are incentivized. Together, they own 9% of the company, including just over 1% owned by myself. Also worth mentioning, we have institutional investment fund Zenito Silver and Gold, which is, I understand, Finland's only precious metals fund. And they subscribe to 2% of the, roughly 2% of the IPO, and they still hold that stock as of the end of the second quarter. And as shown in the chart on the top right, our share price, it rose sharply after the IPO, before following gradually to the 20 krones per share, where it trades now. The share fell, but the gold price has been falling also, I'd like to emphasize, and which has caused the entire gold peer group to fall, as suggested by the GDXJ Junior Gold Mining Index line, which is shown in gray here, which is a collection of junior gold stocks, and the Northgold share price, of course, shown in blue. And a quick recap of our investment highlights. Northgold offers early and advanced stage gold exploration exposure in a top jurisdiction of Finland, dominant land position with a district scale potential in an underinvested and emerging Middle Ostrobothnia gold belt of Finland, central Finland. We have good local infrastructure, including road access to both projects, connecting to rail and port. We think we have high value mineralization due to its being near surface, which should give low discovery costs and low open pit strip ratios. We have near development potential from COPS's conditionally approved mining concession and historic toll milling plans. And we have aligned founding shareholders, board and management team with strong track records creating and working with listed companies. And we should have lots of drill results throughout the rest of the year from our ongoing program, and with a possible resource update around the end of the year. And with that, I'll call Lars back up and be happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's hard to exactly wrap your hands around the value of gold. Even we got some lessons this year, though, with Bitcoin being widely promoted as digital gold, and I know I saw typically Bitcoin people are they're persistent and they seem to work all the time, and it's like God. There's something else. But I saw a calculation that if the family offices, family offices are just rich families, they have their own money management team for themselves, family offices. And if they just took out a couple of percentage of the value they hold in gold and put it in Bitcoin, Bitcoin will go to $300,000, and it's a great new inflation hedge. And then we go from 12 years of zero inflation to major inflation, and Bitcoin crashes. So that's quite a story. But the other one that maybe you could put some flavor on is gold just held steady. Gold is a hedge element in a portfolio as well, and have other uses, of course. But it hasn't been fairly flat through the last year.
Yes, absolutely. And as I mentioned, that's been surprising to some folks. Not only the gold bulls, but you have other factors like high interest rates, rising interest rates, and the equity markets continue to perform well. So gold has maybe lost its luster as gold is somewhat of a defensive investment, and there's still been attractive investment opportunities in the technology, equities, and so on, which have continued to perform well. The U.S. dollar continues to perform well. So, but I don't think, but that might not persist. The rates will eventually fall, and there could be corrections in the U.S. dollar and in the global equity markets, such as you saw in 2008, which after that catapulted the gold price up. So we could have similar occurrences this time around.
Yeah. So what's your explanation? Why, with all that's going on, Russia, Ukraine, high inflation, shortages left and right, how come gold was flat? I know you can't answer, but
I like the gold. 1800 is a solid gold price historically. So, I'm happy with that. I'd be happy to advance Northgold's projects at this current price. But as I mentioned, I think there's other competing investments. The U.S. dollar and the global equity markets as a whole have, I suppose, been attractive to investors, and they're, maybe stealing some of the spotlight from gold and some of the attention and some of the investment from the gold market.
Yeah. Okay. So for your fields, your projects, is it called CAPSA? CAPSA. Is that likely to be the first one out when it comes to actually producing and selling?
Pending our ongoing exploration, you never know when you could make a big discovery that could be a complete game changer for the company. But at this current stage, yes, it's our most advanced project. It's our biggest deposit. It's got some permitting milestones have already been achieved from the past. So it's got a conditionally approved mining area. There's still environmental permits that would have to follow that. But basically, we shortened the time. We believe that the timeline to production is shortened by a few years from those past advancements. We're currently working on finalizing that conditionally approved mining permit, so we can drop the conditionally part. So it just requires an approved mining auxiliary area which would be the road access to the mining area itself. And we're kicking that off and hope to wrap that up by the end of this year. And then it would, should that be successful, it would only require the environmental permit, which would have to follow. And of course, we would have to find a toll milling arrangement, off-site processing, because that is that project is permitted as a toll milling project. It's not a full mill and tailings facility. It's a smaller footprint, which assumes off-site processing.
Okay. Did you present that? Where will the actual processing take place in your plans?
We have not identified an off-site mill to process the material. Historically, it was assumed to be processed at a mill called Hitura Mill. That mill has been decommissioned, so it's no longer there. I did identify 2 other mills in the area. There's one at the Liva mine, which is in receivership, which is 80 kilometers to the north of Kopsa. And then there's the Piasalmi base metal with some precious metal mine, 40 kilometers to the east of the project. So these are potential processing facilities that could accept Kopsa's material. But as mentioned, no formal discussions with those parties have been started yet.
Okay, so when do you think that discussion will start?
Well, I outlined our, short, medium, long-term goals. Currently, we're an exploration company, so we're focused on drilling and growing our resources to 1 million ounces. And then the medium-term plan, which is 2 or 3 years out, would be the time when we would potentially start looking at those options.
Yes.
But right now we're in exploration mode. There's still lots of low-hanging fruit in terms of potential new discoveries that could be made, that could be game changers for the company, especially at Kamala Trend, where the surface has just been scratched.
Yeah, so that would be drilling, and then that would also lead to making the 725,000 number bigger.
That's right. We want to grow that 725 number bigger. Probably the most, in all likelihood, the most of it will come from Kopsa. When you have a big deposit like that, it's much lower risk to grow those ounces because you can do continuations and extensions. When you're drilling a brand new prospect that has no other holes, it's a somewhat risky operation, which, as you can see, we're allocating about 20% of our drilling budget to those risky big upside targets and 80% to the low risk, easier ounces that can be added.
When calculating this and getting into the area, I calculated how many trucks it would take to transport 725,000 ounces. You know how many?
No, not off the top of my head. You're ahead of me on that one, Lars.
It's only one, actually, 22.5 tons. I think I got it right. Someone might correct me here. That would be 1 truckload worth hijacking, though.
Yeah. You bet.
Anyone has a question for Northgold? Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lars.
Thank you very much. Northgold, Mitch.